Uncle Bob again with another story. This time I'll tell you about one of Uncle Bob's misadventures. I was an adventurous little chap. Me and my friends loved to walk all over the place. That was the only way we got anywhere, was by walking, because we didn't ride the bus. I could have, my family had enough money to give me bus fare, but my little friends couldn't, so no way I was going to ride alone. And one of my little friends was, what can we say, a little slow, not too bright. But he was a very loving and nice kid. But he was easily misled. And I was just the one to mislead him in a, not in a serious way, but in an adventurous way. So we were walking and walking and walking, and we got down by the railroad track. Now, this was the main line of the Erie Railroad, and a lot of trains running through there way back in that time. That was, would have been during World War II. So it was a busy place. His old dad worked down in the yard somewhere. He would leave with his lunch pail in the morning, Mr. Anselmo. Well, we walked down to the tracks, and Russell says, "Bob, we should cross the busy tracks." I said, "Don't worry." It was right near the station. The trains had to slow down. They couldn't go through there at 80 miles an hour. And I said, "You can see clearly each way." I don't know if I did all that explaining or if I just said, "Come on, Russ, let's go anyhow." So we trotted across the tracks, the main line. There were a lot of other tracks that, where switchers came and went and so on. I realize that children today don't have a very good grasp of what it was like when there were a lot of railroads, but that's how people moved from town to town. They didn't have any airplanes, so you got on the train or you got on the bus, and the train was a lot faster than the bus. And on the other side of the tracks was the locomotive shops and the round table, all of which would have been very exciting to see. But I wasn't that bold. But there were wheel shops for the railroad cars. Now, when the box cars ran for a certain amount of time, they had to replace the wheels, put on a new tire. It wasn't a rubber tire, it was a metal tire. And to do this work, they had like little shacks along between the tracks. And the shack had a roof, and it had a back, and it had a side, and it had a floor, but it didn't have a front. The front was just a curtain. And it was raised up a little. Handy thing, because when French Creek flooded, that area flooded. And little steps up, and there would be a workman in each little cubby hole. One would be working steel, anvil. I didn't know what they were all doing, but they were all, some of the cubby holes were occupied and people were working there. And of course, Russell says to me, he says, "Bob, we better get home because, you're not supposed to be over here." So I said, "Yeah, okay." And I looked, and they had wheels there, just wheels off of the axle and wheels on the axle. And I was interested in how it was all put together, but I knew there was wisdom in what my friend Russell said. So we carefully in my eyes anyhow, carefully, crossed the main line again, and walked back up to where we lived. I lived on Baldwin Street, and he lived on Park Ave. The two streets were like this. And afterwards, my father came up to me and said, "Did you cross the railroad tracks, you know?" Well, I couldn't lie. Somebody had seen me. It was a small town. My father had a lot of friends. He knew somebody who worked over there. They saw me. They didn't confront me at the time, which is what usually happens. But they told him, and he confronted me and scolded me. Now, poor Russell, his father wasn't of the scolding type. He loved to beat on people. And so Russell got a real bad spanking with a straw. And I felt sorry about it, but, you know, I never took Russell across the tracks again. And that's just a little story, right? I mean, kids get into mischief sometimes, and you just don't know the dangers. This is Uncle Bob saying bye-bye.